Morning, guys. Before we start, let's have an attendance first. Please say present or raise your virtual hand or write present in the chat box if your name is called. Kabag, Canonico, Kapisnon,
Present, sir.
thank you. Carbos, Simiza,
Present, sir.
thank you. Codino, Dagle, De La Victoria, thank you. Felices, Gabato,
Present, sir.
thank you. Ginon,
Present, sir.
thank you. Hernandez, Ibarra, Lebron, Lucero, Mahinay, thank you. Mahusay,
Present, sir.
okay, thank you. Mandreza, thank you. Nigre,
Present, sir.
thank you. Niadas,
Present, sir.
thank you. Umandak,
Present, sir.
thank you. Omega, thank you. Omictin, Swan,
Present, sir.
thank you. Sumalinog,
Present, sir.
thank you. Soralta,
Present, sir.
thank you. Texon, Toto, thank you. Valizado, and Villacampa, okay, thank you. Okay, so let's have the continuation of the last reporter. I think gamay naman lang to. And then prepare na lang po next reporter for the reports. Okay, you may
Sugod na,
start.
sir. Sugod
Yes, you
na.
may start. Thank you. Take over, sir.
Ano naka-audio, no? Di nga naka-audio.
I think diha mo last nag-discuss agile certification.
Right, to continue kay si Andy ang report.
Sugod na, sir.
Okay, you may start.
So, next kay Agile Certification. Agile Certification is a credential that shows your knowledge and skills in Agile methodology, which is a flexible and collaborative way of delivering products and services. So, next. So, what is agile methodology? It is the man on the breakdown of tasks into two steps. So kani una kay analysis of concepts and requirements definition, determine current state and your expectations. So ang mga requirements ba, kumbaga mga specs mga ana. Nya to kay planning of sprint. So arrange teams and tools needed to optimize production. So mga tao nimo og mga plano nya kuan kag mag-form kag team nya. Sunod kay collaborative design development. From the beginning of the process, the end user's involvement and feedback is critical. So mag mag-collab mo sa inyong team o sa mga user para kuan ba para mas mo improve ang inyong kung sa inyong gibuhat. Sunod kay create and implement. So frequent development, deliberate through sprints, feedback on testing, and appropriate changes are imperative. So, kana inyo na button, i-create na ninyo ang sa inyong button. Sunod kay review and monitor. Kani para ensure that ma-ensure ang nagpalit ba. Ma-monitor ninyo pero i-monitor ninyo kung unsa na inyo kung mga kung gibuhat kung kamusta na. So, mo na ang agile methodology.
Also, to add with agile methodology, guys. So, naanda na to diri as kanang nag-study og software, hardware and software, but particularly on software. Ang naandan man gud sa methods nato when developing our software is by waterfall. So meaning waterfall gani is from top to bottom ang process. So kana from top diha magsugod ang kaning requirements or problem solving, checking of the problems or understanding the specifications, then followed by the planning, then followed by collaboration, and so on and so forth. Once nga ma-stuck mo sa any middle part sa waterfall nga methodology is you cannot go back kay once again waterfall man. So mahitabo is let's say na-stuck mo dapit sa kaning execution of the plan. So nakuha ninyo, uy, murag dili man din nato kaya. So magbalik na sa nung uno. So kana, sakto si Soralta. So waterfall is sequence niya, ang agile is repetition. So mo ra gyud na siya ang concept yun sa agile methodology. Mostly agile methodology is the methodology nga gigamit karon mostly sa kanang software development industries. So mo na siya. Okay, may continue.
Thank you, sir. So, next. So, kani mo ni ang ah, kung asa mo pwede mo kuha atong agile certification kini mo na mo ilang mga company, mga website. Muna. So, next. Next certification are what you call test that certifications and short courses. So, katong gibuhat ato atong paglas kasi lubiya atong isda. Una kay kaning computer system servicing. But kuan ni guba daw ni computer niya ayun. Sunod kay digital animation courses. So, kato nga nang mag-anime ba? Mag-animate o using digitally.
So,
Sunod kay
unsa different mag-animate using digitally. So, kuha niya digital sa muka. Imo ra man gibaliw ni ang so digital animation guys is kuha niya siya kanang animations like magbuhat mo og 2D animations, 3D animations. So ano siya kanang magbuhat mo og king koy baron or design sa kanang mga anime characters or design of kanang mga sprites sa imong duwa if you're into game development. So kana siya. Dili ni animation using digitally ha. Sabok ka. Kuan ro ni kagad lebron. Bitaw joke lang bitaw. So mo to siya ha. So kana siya if lastly electromechanics. So mo ni siya kana murag kasagaran if actually kuan is kana bitaw sa kanang unsa ni kurso ninyo dire nag-offer ni sa CTO gani kato na ay mga industrial
Mechat
technology ba na mo ba na.
nasa mechatronics sir.
Oh, mechatronics. So ingana ra na, but this time electromechanics kay nagamit na ni sila og PLCs. So PLC, if I'm not mistaken, programmable logic circuit ang siguro na PLC, meaning ato search para di ta mauwawan. Programmable logic controller day. So mura na siya og kanang Arduino, pero mas kuan, mas dako iyahang range, or kumbaga industrial na iyahang range. So if application ani electromechanics kay kana mag-control og mga robotic arms sa development nga warehouse. Kaya na siya. So, short course lang ni siya. I'm not sure if nani bayad. Murag libre basta TESDA ang good na may daghan libre diha. Actually nakakuha gani kong libre diri sa TESDA sa ako ang technopreneurship na certification. So online na to siya. So, search lang niyo sa TESDA guys, naara gyud daghan kayo nga kunya libre. Sige, thank you. You may continue.
So next kay next way. Next kay kaning cut V. Wait lang. Tong kuan ni meaning ani cut V kay cable mo wala cable. Masabot ni siya sa air.
Cut-V cable
Masabot
television installation. So,
kana cable
pag-install
kana
ng cable TV. Ana.
kana signal kana sa
Oh,
kana.
kana. Saon
Ya
yun?
kaning sunod kay CAD kani computer aided drafting niya. Ang CAM kay computer aided manufacturing. So kaning CAD katong buhat ato sa una diri mag buhat atong mga drawing ba. So kumbaga draft.
Actually,
Mo
if
na
you
niya
have kuan ba, in addition sa if you have experience with CAD, kay pwede man mo maka-sideline like mamaligya mo o kanang design kumbaga sa usa ka building. So kana yung mag-freelance mo ba if you have the time pud nga ganahan o ganahan sad mo magkuan. Sige.
nga ang CAM kay mo na siya ang gamiton para igbuhat na jud atong gibuhat nimo sa CAD. So pag siya kung circuit kay ang CAD ang kuan ang ang pag-design ba kasi sa CAD niya. Ang sa CAM kay siya ang murang route sa mga wires ingan na niya. Padung na manufacturing. Nga. Nga, sunod kay software development courses. Ang develop ka og software about mo learn kag mga programming languages about nga makabuhat kag software ingan na. So mo next next kay Cisco network program. Kamo ka budget mga net Cisco packet receive ang magnet ay ko sa zero. Oh,
Pero pero
ang
ang actual ano yung Cisco kaysa kay dili ra niingon nga packet tracer katag yung na ay kanang routers ug switch ba. Amot lang if nani bayad, but if mo take yun mo ka na sa Cisco yun directly, ang bayad sa examination is around 12 to 15,000 pesos. So kana. So kung ganahan mo mo take ani, make sure nga prepared yun mo para dili pud sayang ang iyong bayad sa certification.
so kanay mga Cisco packet receive katong mag simulate og mga networks sa mga computer and sunod kay database management mag-manage og data. So
Sa
kana mga
mukag definition na mo. Sa mukag mag-manage.
wala
Manage
kailangan
yung data
na
management.
kaya magamit sa atong mga software ba dira masulod ang mga data sa mga user ilang password mga information nila either personal or about sa ilang work ingan na ba so yun na
Or
pareha
kanang database management is mura ka og admin. So server admin ka. Kaya na.
mag-manage yung data set so next so summary the ICT courses and training. So ano sa meaning ng DICT? Department of Information Communication wala na. Department of Information and Communications Technology. So mo nilang mga gi-offer nga mga courses and training. So una kay managing ICT services in government, unsa man ITIL framework, data-driven governance, social media for development, and Java, VB.NET, dot, .NET pa ni? VB.NET o C# programming. Kana mga abot siya sa information and communication nga mga technology ana kaning data driven government parehara gyapon natong pare-pareha siya tong data base management nga kaning social media for development o pasubot. So next no. So kani civil service exam, standardized tests administered by government agencies in various countries, including the United States, to assess the aptitude and qualification of individuals seeking employment in the civil service or public sector. So, katong exam nga para para mo trabaho ka sa government pa niya. Di ka darawaton kay wakay bakir. So, na next. Sunod kay Electronic Data Processing Specialist Eligibility. EDPSE. So the EDPSE is conferred upon individuals who pass the proficiency test or training course conducted by the ICTO or the Information and Communications Technology Office, formerly known as National Computer Center. Proficiency is assessed in systems analysis and design as well as computer programming courses in Java, MS Access, or Visual Basic. So, about sa mga electronic gani mga process og ay wala electronic data ba mga process sa kana so next so kani unsa man siya ang katong EDPSA. So it extends to functionally related positions within the information technology or management information system group such as data encoder, so data machine operator and computer programmer. So pare-pareha ra dai gyapon siya tong database management pero kanay kay siya ang yung data encoder ikaw ang mubutang sa data data machine encode operator ikaw mo operate computer programmer. May sunod kay electronic data processing specialist eligibility. So para mo apply ka dapat applicants kay dapat nasa so applicants must file their applications for ADPSE within 3 years from the issuance date of the Information and Communication Technology Office or National Computer Center Certificate of Proficiency. Next. So, muna dito sir, mo niya mo katong references.
So, Maruto guys, thank you for listening.
All right. So thank
Sa
you,
Dani of
group one.
next group na sir.
So next group stuff. FYI day for our quiz next meeting. So since topic group one is the first supporter man. So members of group one, you don't need to join the quiz. So kumbaga perfect na mo daan. But I will give you a task in grading your group mates as well. So I will explain that one tomorrow next meeting na lang kay wala pa sa nako nadala ang ako ang grading sheet. para makita ninyo ba kung saan na to pag grades. Okay, sige.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, next reporter, please continue. If you are here, so you can stop sharing your screen na, group 1. So, group 2, you may start and take the floor, virtual floor rather.
Hello, group 2.
No, sir. Wait, sir. No.
Ay, tara day. Sorry, my bad. Sige, sige, sige.
Kita ang screen, guys.
Makita na sa ako ang end. I'm not sure will be others if makita man nila.
So, good morning, everyone. We are here to report about project management methodologies. So, next slide then. So, project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, techniques to projects activities to meet the requirements. So, applying a good project management discipline is a way to help reduce the risk. Having good project management skills does not completely eliminate problems, risks, or surprises. So, the value of the project management is that you have standard processes in place to deal with all the contingencies. So, project management is accomplished through the appropriate application and integration of the 47 logically grouped project management processes. So it is categorized into five process groups. Next then. So the project management processes that includes planning, putting the project plan into action and measuring progress and performance. So the five process process groups are initiating process group, planning process group, executing process group, monitoring and controlling process group, and then closing process group. So in initiating process group, so the purpose of initiating process group is to align the stakeholders' expectations and the project purpose. So inform stakeholders of the scope and objectives and discuss how their participation in the project and its associated phases can help to ensure the expectations are met. Next one will be the planning process group. So planning process accept inputs developed in the initiation phase or the process group. So the project charter and stakeholder registry. So those inputs are then expand into several outputs. So in the form of more detailed plan described clearly in the project documentation. So, a project strategy may already have been determined or be part of the planning stage. Next one will be the executing process group. So this process describe how to meet the project demands and produce the final deliveries. So in other words, how to actually meet objectives and produce a finished project. Next will be the monitoring and controlling process group. So monitoring and controlling processes will be performed throughout the entire project. So alongside initiating, executing, and closure phase processes. So controlling process group are focused on collecting project performance information to better manage the project. So useful in any successful project is a vital in more complex projects. And lastly, the closing process group. So this can be used at the end of any aspect of a project. So all the deliverables created during a project execution have been transferred and the project manager is wrapping up the final details. So next. So, managing a project includes identifying requirements and addressing the various needs, concerns, and expectations of the stakeholders in planning and executing the project. Second, setting up, maintaining, and carrying out communication along stakeholders that are active, effective, and collaborative in nature. Next. So, third one will be managing stakeholders towards meeting project requirements and creating project deliverables. And lastly, balancing the competing project constraints, which include but are not limited to first scope, schedule, budget, quality, resources, and risk. So, managing a project includes identifying your project requirements and writing down what everyone needs from the project. So, what are the objectives of your project? And when everyone understands the goal, it's much easier to keep them all on a right path. So, make sure nga iset nimo ang goals nga ma-agree nga ang everyone kay mo agree. So, to avoid conflicts later on. So, understanding and addressing the needs of everyone affected by the project means the end result of your project is far more likely to satisfy your stakeholders. Last but not the least, as a project manager, you will also be balancing the competing project constraints. So, On any project, you will have a number of project constraints that are competing for your attention. So they are cost, scope, quality, risk, resources, and time. So first is the scope. Scope is what the project is trying to achieve and entails all the work involved in delivering the project outcomes and the processes used to produce them. So the scope is the reason and the purpose of the project. Next one is the cost. So cost is the budget approved for the project, including all necessary expenses needed to deliver the project. Next will be the quality. So the quality is the combination of the standards and criteria to which the project's products must be delivered for them to perform effectively. So the product must perform to provide the functionality expected, solve the identified problem, and deliver the benefit and value expected. Next will be the risk. So risk is identified by potential external events that will have a negative impact on your project. Next will be resources. So resources are required to carry out the project task. So they can be people, equipment, facilities, funding, or any else capable of definition required for the completion of the project activity. So lastly, the time. So time is defined as the time to complete the project. So time is often the most frequent project oversight on developing projects. So based from the figure, so you may have heard the term triple constraint. So triple constraint, which traditionally consisted of only time, scope, cost, and scope. So these are the primary competing project constraints that you have to be most aware of. So the triple constraint is illustrated in the form of a triangle to visualize the project work and see the relationship between the scope, quality, schedule, or time, and cost or resources. So in this triangle, as you can see in the slide, so each side represents one of the constraints or related constraints wherein any changes to any one side of cause a change in the other sides. So the best projects have a perfectly balanced triangle. Next one. Next palihog din. So what is project? So project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. The temporary nature of projects indicates that a project has a definite beginning and end. Next. So the end is reached when the project's objectives have been achieved or when the project is terminated because its objective will not or cannot be met or when the need for the project no longer exists. So like when the client wishes to terminate the project. And third, next good then. Balik-balik. So project also temporary refers to the project engagement and its longevity. So and it does not typically apply to the product, service, and result created by the project. So most projects are undertaken to create a lasting outcome. So when considering whether or not you have a project on your hands. So there are some things to keep in mind. First, is it a project or an ongoing operation? And second, if it is a project, who are the stakeholders? And third, what characteristics distinguish this endeavor as a project? So project has have several characteristics. This includes the projects are unique, projects are temporary in nature and have a definite beginning and ending date. Also, projects are completed when the project goals are achieved, or it's determined the project are no longer viable. So a successful project is one that meets and exceeds the expectation of the stakeholders. Next. So a project can create a product. First, a product that can be either a component or another item, an enhancement of an item, or an end item itself. Next will be a service or a capability to perform a service. Example, business functions that supports production or distribution. Third one will be an improvement. So in the existing product or service lines, example, a Six Sigma project undertaken to reduce defects. And third, and lastly, a result. Next then. A result such as an outcome or document. So example of these are research project that develops knowledge that can be used to determine whether a trend exists or a new process will benefit society. So next one. Next. So program. So what is program? Program is comprised of subprograms, projects, projects or other works that are managed in the coordinated fashion in support of the portfolio, while portfolio is a collection of projects, programs, sub-portfolios, and operations managed as a group to achieve strategic objectives. So this will be elaborated more on the next reporter.
So good morning, everyone. Project management to lead a team that is responsible for achieving projects. So he or she is accountable for tasks of all project-related priorities, must have a full control and visibility of project management, and immediately take necessary actions as needed. So this is the contrast with a role of functions manager who is focuses providing management oversight for functional or business unit, and operation management manager are responsible for ensuring the business operation are efficient. So more important, the project manager is accountable for decision making between the project management triple constraint, which is illustrated as the triangle project management, has the right or responsible to make wise decision in necessary assessment, discussion, negotiations, and adjustment involving the project scopes, budgets, and schedules, which is determine the degree of a quality success. So next slide, please. So engineering projects, so involved in creative problem solving, and they are not a hypothesis testing. So it's engineering designs a software application or a device. Project should have a clear engineering goals. So and the follow engineering design design process. So there are seven types of a engineering projects. So one is a define a need, express a goal. So second is establish design criteria and constraints. Third is evaluate alternative design. Fourth, build a prototype of the best design. Fifth, test evaluate a prototype using the design criteria. Sixth, the test result. Make a design change and retest. And lastly, communicate the design. So next slide, please. So project selections is a process to assist each project idea and select the project with the highest priority. Project are still just a suggestion that at this stage. So the selections of often made based on only brief descriptions of the project. So CPE or cost benefit analysis is a systematic approach to testing the strength and weakness of alternative use to determine option which provide a based approach of achieving benefits while preserving savings. So next, acquiring and developing a project team. So first is team orientation. Team orientation are let the team participate in an iterations planning and goal setting prioritized clearly. Next is redundancy. Redundancy assures responsible of works agree or uniformity. Uniformity. Next is shared leaderships. Manage with a lead and collaborate collaborate principles have cross-functional teams. Next is learnings. Have a short iterations hub and of iterations review sessions and give the continuous feedback track progress. Next is autonomy. Autonomy is authorize the team have someone to project the team. Next and lastly, communications and collaborations. So intimate and open customers relationships work together in open workspace shares and information daily visualize progress. So next slide please. So system project management and system engineering are distinct disciplines and each with its own a focus objectives and methodologies. And well, system energy engineering is a focuses on design development integrations of a complex system to meet a specified requirements. It is emphasized the technical aspects of system architectures, functionality, performance, and optimization, while project management is focuses on a planning, organizing, executing, and controlling resources to achieving a specific project objectives um, within defined constraints such as time, co- cost, scope, and quality. It is emphasized the managerial aspect of coordinating a people, process, and stakeholder stakeholder to deliver a project successfully. So that's all our report. So next reporter, please. Thank you.
So, excuse me guys, wala pa day si Lucero karon, so mo proceed sa akong topic, which is the Project Management Book of Knowledge. Next. Okay. Okay. Project management of book knowledge. Next slide, please. So, project management book of knowledge, which is the PM book, is a comprehensive guide published by the Project Management Institution, which is the PNI. It serves as a fundam- foundational resource for managers worldwide, offering standardized terminology, processes, and best practices essential for successful project execution. And moreover, PMBOK is an industry standard set of guiding principles that you can use to ensure that your project across multiple types of teams and organizations meet the PMI's high standards and comply with the best practices. Next slide, please. Okay, why PMBOK? So, PMBOK has been used as the standard by which PMP certificate is obtained. PMP certification based upon a survey of many companies' best practices. The advantages of using PMP certified project management and team members is that resources have already been trained. PMBOK is valuable for both companies and employees. So we have three reasons of PMBOK. So PIM, the first reason of PMBOK is valuable is that it allows companies to standardize practices across departments. This means that the people in development manage projects in the same manners as those in distribution. And the second is the PMBOK can help project managers to work with a standardized system across companies. Someone working for company X who then moves into company Y. You can use the same practices. So, and the third is PMBOK. And the third PMBOK discusses that works the method documented within the project management community can assess those who are certain of how to undertake risk management. PMBOK also discusses that doesn't work this prevent failure of projects. So next slide please. So the five PMBOK process groups, which are the initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling, closing. So na-discuss naman siya kanina ni Ali. So let's tackle about their typically activities to perform initi- to perform in their own groups. So first is initiating. Typical activities to perform in these initiating groups. According to PMI, the process of initiating helps to set the vision of what is to be accomplished. So, and also, stakeholders identify is crucial here because correct identification and subsequent management and control of stakeholders can literally make or break the project. And the next is the planning. The typical activities for this perform in the planning group was a crucial element of planning is establishing the total scope of the project. While it may appear as though as what accomplish an initiating group scope along with risk, milestone, summary, and budget was defined there at a high level. And also in the PMBOK guide, PMI defines 24 discrete processes that are involved in planning. And the next one is the executing. So here are the activity of planning in this group. Project manager need to acquire and manage the development team and also cultivate in performing team buildings exercises. So every companies do this do some team building exercises to aims to strengthen bonds with the team members, improve communication, and create cohesive unit that work together effectively towards common goals. So the next one is the monitoring and controlling. The typical activities to be performed in this group was a identify any areas in which changes to the plan are required. And also in this group, you only need to get back on the track where you compare plans to actual and measure variance and take corrective actions. And lastly, which is the closing. So typical activities performed in this closing group not only not only do formally close the project, but you also get sign off and acceptance from the customers. And also lesson learned along with other historical information should be certainly achieved to be used as input and future project to prevent reinventing and well. So next slide please. And also we have the PIMBOK guide, not the 10 PIMBOK guides knowledge areas. And the first one is integration. So this covered first in PIMBOK guides, but it's about bringing together with everyone you know so that you can manage your project historically and not in individual process chunks. And next is the scope. So it is the way to define what your project will deliver. Scope management is all about making sure that everyone is clear about what the project is for and what it includes. It covers collecting requirements and preparing the work's breakdown structures. And the next one, which is the schedule or time. It relates to how you manage the time people are spending on their project tasks and how long the project takes overall. This knowledge or helps you to understand the activities in the project, the sequence of those activities and how long they are going to take. And the next one is the quality. So this area is where you're learning about the setup and quality control and quality management activities on your project so that you can be confident and result will meet your customer expectation. And next is the resource or the human resources. First, you have to understand what resources you need to be able to complete your project. Then you put your team together. After that, it's all about managing the people on the team, including giving them an extra skill to do their job if they need it. Next was the communication. Communication, given that a project manager's job is often said to be about 80% communication. In their PM writes communication plan for the project and monitor all the incoming and outgoing communications. And the next one is the risk. Risk management involves identifying risk and understanding how to assess risk on your own project. That includes how you perform quant- quantitative and qualitative risk assessments. Management is one of activity. It covers controlling your project risk going forward through the project life cycle. And the next is procurement. Procurement, it is support all your procurement and suppliers work from planning what you need to buy to going through the tendering and purchasing processes to managing the work of the supplier and the closing of the contract when the project is finished. And lastly is the stakeholders. So stakeholder management, it is one of the most important group which takes you through the journey of buying stakeholders. Understand understanding the role and needs in the project and ensuring that you can deliver those. And I think we'll see these areas develop further in the next edition of the standards. And if you can grasp all of these knowledge areas, you'll have everything you need to know as a manager covered. Okay, next slide, please.
By the way, do you have any questions or whatsoever based on the reporter's topic? Wala na? Wala na so far? Okay. Reporter, you may continue.
Okay, sir. So the next one is the PMBOK structure. Project management as a practice of properly growing and spreading worldwide and is now seen globally as a recognized and strategic competency, a career path, and a subject for training and education. The PMBOK framework consists of five process groups and 10 knowledge areas and 47 project management processes. The knowledge areas group and the PM processes by project management content. So, so in the next slide, please. So in the next slide, we can see the five. We can see the we can see the five processes group, and then the knowledge area. So the 47 PMBOK processes, standardization of the processes remains at the heart of all effective business models and plans. In project management, the PMBOK provides a way of transforming isolated processes into a complete, standardized, and collaborative effort. So the 47 processes are classified under five pro- different process groups that associated with the corresponding knowledge areas in the following table. So as we see, so the 47 the 47 PMBOK processes under siya sa initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling, and lastly sa closing. And also under sad siya, associated sad siya sa corresponding knowledge areas which is the integration, scope, time, cost, quality, HR, communication, risk, requirement, and stakeholders. And that's all for my report. And for the next report, and the next topic will be the project documentation, which report by Ron. Ron.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Jan. So at this point we have already so this point is the last part of our of our discussion, and um with that we have already discussed what is a project, what is the totality of project management, who are these who are these project managers, and what are these engineering projects. So just for a quick knowledge check, I would like to ask anyone if do you have any thoughts or own ideas about what is a project? Anyone, please?
Plus points ang makutan na or kuan mo answer.
You can just turn on your mic. Hello, hila ko ron. Sorry.
Ako na lang manawag sa ha. Sige. Wala mo volunteer. Wait sa. Para fair sa tanan, let's have a wheel of names. So let me share mag-share sa kong screen ha. Edit lang.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Share my screen. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Kapiskal.
Reporter na siya, sir.
Reporter din siya. Dili pwede. Sige, tataglain. Okay, Omega. Is Omega here? Sige,
Yes, sir.
you may answer the question of our reporter. So what was that again?
What's project management?
A project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create. What's that the question again, sir?
Project management. What is it?
And project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the requirements.
All right, thank you. So basically, project management deals with the application of set of skills, a set of requirements in which a client imposed to, for example, you are a software company and a client wants to do this. So this application is considered a project. And with that, you have to develop and make sure that the client's requirement are met. And that's just a simple project, and there are other projects other than software. So it was discussed that there is a project manager, and the role of project manager develops and makes sure that the team is being able to achieve the required objectives and make sure that it is aligned with clients' needs. And why I am telling this to you, as being part of a project, as having a role of a project manager, certain documentation are required, as you have to report daily or weekly or monthly of what is going on with your project. Hence, we have project documentation. Please proceed. Next slide, please. Thank you. So it tells here project documentation covers document created during and for the project itself. Examples include the overall project vision, the project plans, the schedules, and risk analysis. So, basically, in a nutshell, project documentation tells what is the project or the product, and how it was created, what was the process taken, um what was the challenges and all those stuff, and why we have to create this project documentation is something that we have to learn by heart. And being able to develop and make sure that your documentation is well written and comprehensive is important because of why is it important? Why do we have to make sure that these documentations are well written and comprehensive? As your side, as the project developer, why do you think you have to make sure that your documentation is well written and comprehensive? Anyone would like to share their thoughts? Again, my question was, why is there a need to make sure that the documentation of your project is well written and it is comprehensive? Why is that? Ayo. Okay, so ako na lang. So, for me lang ha, this is my personal
Wait,
opinion.
wait, 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 wait. So no one will. So since no one will volunteer, so let's volunteer. Okay. So is Omectin present? Omectin, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Sige. Okay, you may please go ahead and answer the question of our
So,
reporter.
para nako sir kay ang project kay need i-document para kan sir, para clarity dayon og para sa future planning sir.
Okay, good point. Good point, Amiktin. So I just like to borrow her words. She about clarity and for future endeavors. So basically, your project documentation is like the Wikipedia of your project. So it is used now and it will also be used in the future. Why is that? So in future endeavors, at some point your project will have challenges, will have bugs and other other things that we cannot foresee right now. So in the future, software engineers in the future will go back to what we have written, to what we have put into our documentation and see what is the loophole or what's wrong, and they will remediate that in the future to make sure that the project is being well maintained, and it needs to be well written and comprehensive for obvious reason, in order for the future engineers or developers will be able to understand of what you have written, because they cannot understand your own they cannot understand what you call this, um your own ideas if you just put it in, in not orderly fashion. You have to make sure that it is comprehensive so that in the future it is understood easily. Okay, so
And also to add about project documentation,
It's not only mainly for checking for bugs or knowing what are the things that was going on with your project. So documentation is also created for both you guys as the developers or the makers of the project, and together with the sole purpose for that your clients or your stakeholders will also understand the things
yes,
that you have done so far in the project. So let's say, for example, let's go back to the software development industry. So your clients do not have any idea what are variables, what are data types, or what are functions, what are loops, or so on and so forth. So most of them do not understand those terminologies, or let's say jargon, no? So the thing is, they will understand what was being done with the project by the use of your documentation. So you translate your codes, or you translate your methods or functions that you created in your project into words that your clients can understand. So kumbaga imong imong i-explain sa ilaha nga mura sila bata nga way buot. So actually, based on experience, I also done documentation while doing my project
Lesson
way
12.
back when I was still working as a developer at Alliance. So the thing is, when once
Lesson,
again,
sir.
if you do the project, you also do the documentation. So it will be parallel. While you're doing the project or you're developing the program, you're also working with the documentation. So if you have changes in line, let's say line 21, then you will also put in your documentation that I have made changes from line 21. So from this line of code, I change it to this line of code for the sole purpose of mo ni siya mo ni mao na. So yung ana na siya. And also, kato, i-reiterate lang nako, project documentation is once again needed yun because once again you are not working alone. So you will be always working as a team. So kung imuhang code diha wa ka kasabot, how much more nga imuhang mga kauban makasabot or di sa gina makasabot sa imuhang gibuhat nga code. So as much as possible, make it clear, concise, or kundi concise, precise, accurate, clear. So the root word there is clear when you are doing your project documentation. So mora ko na sa inyo hagod puhon in fourth year ninyo kaluyan sa Ginoo, you will be undergoing project thesis, di ba? Or research thesis. So in your documentation sa inyong research thesis para dili mo balik-balikon o labad-labad sa inyong mga panelis, you also make sure that your paper is clear and kana sa kanang sa pool sa objectives ninyo nga dili na mo angay balik-balik ko nung pangutana sa inyong panelis. So mao ra gyud na siya. Okay? So that will be all. Okay, you may continue, reporter. Sorry about that.
Thank you for those insights, sir. So, as mentioned, sir, it is necessary for a communication between stakeholders or clients and between you as a developer because they do not speak the same language as you do with the project. So you have to translate it on the words that they can understand because as a client, they have the money and you have to make sure that the project is delivered so you will get your money. And it's easy as that. So much for a quick so much for the overview of project documentation. Let's go proceed with its stages, please. Next slide, please. Right, so there we have it. So these are a overview of what will be the stages in project documentation. And later on, we also have to discuss the categories of project documentation. So the first stage of project documentation is the planning, stakeholders, user developers, and UI developers, designers rather. So at this point, the definition of what the product is, how it should look and work, setting coding standards, design patterns, style guides, user flows, and mental maps. High level requirements and design documents, low level requirements and design documents. So at this stage, your project is premature. It is on its foundation. It's on its foundation stage in which there has been no test made about the project. There has been no simulation between user and the project, but rather what is the project being developed? What does it do? What does it supposedly do? And what are the architecture used, what are the style guides, the coding standards, and all those specific stuff. And the second stage is where the project is now being implemented and being tested, and which we have quality assurance stage. We've got test plans and standards, test documentation, and at this point we will simulate and users will interact with the project or with the application at this context and make documentations as well. We've got formulating testing standards, tasks, task flow, and test types, defining the subject of testing, documenting testing results. So basically, at this stage, it only talks about the feedback, the users experience about the application or the product. And the third one is user documentation. So at this point, it has already been tested by the user. It has been well documented already about the test done, about the test that's been conducted. So for user documentation, we've got system documentation and user guides, installation guides, creating instruction for product maintenance, installation, and usage. So at this stage, you as a developer, you have to create a guide, a manual on how the application is used, what is it used for, how is it done, how do we maintain this type of application, and how can we use this effectively or efficiently. So we document everything from end user guide until the installation and about what is the system all about. And the fourth one is release. So we've got final reports and these are your final tasks. You will hand this over to your client and the client will overlook this for you and make sure that on their end they are satisfied with what you've done. And if they don't, then they will return it to you and ask for revisions. So well, it is so this is the part where project documentation is very crucial. As mentioned before, your language is not the same as the client. So your project documentation is basically the medium between you and the client. And you have to make sure that the medium is clear, concise, and precise, and also comprehensive in a language that the client spoke. And with that, they do not spoke Java, they do not spoke C++. They do not know all those stuff. I mean, we cannot know if they know those things because again, you will not just be handling one client. There are stakeholders that will judge your work. And yeah, so much for that. So we have it. We've got planning stage, quality assurance stage, user documentation, and the last one is release. And there you have it. Your project is finished. And going next is where we will discuss the categories of project documentation. So there are two, as you can see, the product documentation and process documentation. So let's go first with product documentation. Everyone, product documentation. So product documentation is further divided into two, which is system documentation and user documentation. So let's discuss what is product documentation. So product documentation basically tells about what is the product, or and what does the product do, what is its design, and what what's the user's feedback about the product only. And it is further divided into two, which is the system documentation and user documentation. Let's go first with the system documentation. So we please, next slide, please. Next. Okay. So we have the product documentation. Again, there are two project documentations. We have product documentation and process documentation. So let's go first with product documentation. So product documentation describes the product that is being developed and provides instructions on how to perform various tasks with it. In general, product documentation includes requirements, text specifications, business logics, and manuals. And so, in a nutshell, product documentation tells about what is your product, what does it do, its manual, and obviously what its tech specification in order for the project to be, to be efficient, and um also effective as well. So there are two main types of product documentation. We've got system documentation and user documentation. So by the name itself, system documentation, it will only deal with its system specifically, its specification, its design, its architecture, its program source code, descriptions, and all those stuff. So it only talks about the project development. And at this point, if you have revisions with the logo, you, as much as possible, you will have to include that as well. Even if you think even if you think that those minimal changes you've made, or those minimal 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 things you've added or removed in the project, even if you think it is irrelevant or it will not be considered, you have to put that as well, just for future purposes and for also clients reference. And there we're done with system documentation. And lastly, we have user documentation. So user documentation covers the manual and mainly prepared for end users of product and system administrators. User document includes tutorials, user guides, troubleshooting manuals, installation, and reference manuals. So for users documentation, it is basically a handbook to be given by the project managers or the project developers to the user. It is a handbook on the how to use the project or the application. It's troubleshooting manuals and installation processes. So can we go back to the previous slide, please? Okay, so there we have it. System documentation. We have few takeaways. We've got product requirement document, UI design documentation, software architecture design documentation, source code element, quality assurance documentation, maintenance and help guide, and API documentation. At this juncture, again, the system documentation will only deal with what is the system all about, what specifications has been used, what's the right condition of what's the right condition of the computer, or let's say for example of a phone, to make sure that the application is effective. And then we have the design, documentation, architecture, and of course the source code document that you have used on your application. And then also we've got maintenance, help and guide, and then API documentation. All right. So going next with user documentation, we have end user documentation and system admin documentation. Yeah. Anyway, that's just for the user's document or a handbook. All right. So we're already done with product documentation. Let's proceed with process documentation. So overall, process documentation represents all documents produced during development and maintenance to describe the process. Common example of process-related documents are standards and project documentation, such as project plans, test schedules, reports, meeting notes, or even business correspondence. So basically, at this point, your in your project documentation, you have to include there the process documentation. In process documentation, you have to document what was the process changes or which part are you on your milestone in the project, or are you still on phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, or phase 4. Yeah, every now and then there will be meeting, there will be business correspondence. You also have to note that at this date, client X requested to change this logo from this to this. You have to include that. Meeting notes, simple meeting notes must be included, written, and also comprehensive on this juncture. And also, of course, the project plans and test schedules of the process. So basically, process documentation only deals with what happened in front of the project or what happened within the team, the business discussions, the processes changes, and all those stuff. So at this category, you will you will have to make sure that all written notes are found on the meeting, of course. There. So again, going back, just a quick recap about the categories. So there we have it. Project documentation are divided into two: product documentation and process documentation. So here are the few takeaways of process documentation. We've got agile product roadmaps, plans, estimates, schedules, reports and metrics, working papers, and standard. So basically, the process documentation only deals with the corporate business stuff. It deals with the meeting notes, the schedules, the estimates, of course, the cost, um, the reports and metrics. So, as a developer, you sometimes are required to make a report to the client weekly, daily, or monthly. And most of the things that you will report there is the process documentation and the system documentation. And there, you will discuss to your client which part of the project you've already made or which part of the project you are focusing on right now. And you have to develop and make sure that your process documentation is is well written and comprehensive on your report. There. Um, so the main difference between these categories is the between product and process documentation is mainly what they're focused on. In a nutshell, product documentation it will only deal with the manual, the specifications of the project, what does the project do, what does the project look like, and how it's supposed to work. While on the process documentation, you document everything happened within the team, the schedules you have created, the meeting discussions you've made between you and the client or between you and the team, the plans you are aiming to develop, the working papers, and just the usual business stuff that you have to deal on in order to make sure that your business is well going. And there we have it. that's the conclusion of project documentation. I hope that you guys have learned about my topic, as it is very crucial as a developer. Once in the future, you have to make sure that your project is well written. And there, if you have any questions, please raise your hands as I will and my team will answer them. Larry, questions? Okay.
All right, so I think there will be no more questions, and since it's almost time, so please prepare next meeting on Wednesday.
May
We
sir,
will have yes,
kanang si Jamaica sir ba? Wait, pwede siya report next meeting sir. Kaya,
maka-report.
kaya wala siya report karon sir.
Next meeting na lang. Kon, Wednesday, magpa-report ko niya for 30 minutes and then I will, the remaining time for our CPE loss will be our quiz. So for next meeting, we'll have a quiz based on Group One's report. So Group One, you may share your PowerPoint in our GC or PDF. So, or tapos sad, you can also use reference the topics sa akong gihatag ninyo na akong gipost sa ato ang Google Classroom. So for now, since it's almost 9:30 and I will still travel no from here to UC, so I will end our class for today. By the way, for those who have not yet wala na tawag sa attendance, please please be present when your name is called. So Kabag, present no kay reporter ganina. Canonigo, still not yet around. Carbos,
Present,
Isa,
sir.
thank you. Codino, okay, thank you. Dagle, thank you. Felices, thank you. Hernandez, naku ano, brown out sila ha. So let me note here, brown out. Ibarra, thank you. Libron,
Present, sir.
thank you. Lucero, Lucero is still not yet around. Omictin na ana ni Tuto. Ano na din, sorry natawag na din. What I mean is, what I mean is Balizado. Okay, thank you. And I think that's all. Alright, so thank you guys for attending our discussion for today. See you tomorrow morning. Bye bye. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the day, guys.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.
May sir.
Hi, sir.
Arigatou
Thank you.
gozaimasu.
Bye.